I'm sitting just out here in my room, in the
Oh,
living
we just went live. Sorry, there was a
room.
little delay, but we were talking about our cats,
You
everyone.
were,
We're
yeah.
rolling, dude. We're rolling.
Uh,
Thank you so much for coming back. Like I
Sure.
told you when we were off screen, I really feel that there's such divisiveness and there's such angst and there's such horrors and there's such judgment. And it's so nice to talk to somebody in a different generation with different views, different lifestyle, and to find common ground, in particular, common ground for the children,
That's
which
good.
was your awakening moment that we talked about the last time you were here. So I just want to welcome you back.
Thanks. Yeah, appreciate it. Thanks for having me. We were in the middle of discussing how loud our cats are and how they interrupt our live stream. So that's that's what you caught us.
I'm really blessed because my house is kind of divided into another section and it closes off. And so they can have like, I don't know how many rooms, the loft, the back living area, and I can just close it off and it's not as loud. But sometimes I'll forget and they'll get to fighting or being just like, you know how they get that primal
Yeah.
like, and I'm just
Yeah.
like,
My
oh
cat
my
will get
gosh, it sounds
separation
like.
anxiety if I lock
And then
myself in
people
a
are like,
room or
is there a
something.
demon in her? Is there a demon in her house? Nope. And so, one of the things that I wanted to cover with you, like just off the start, we touched on it a little bit the last time you were here, but I wanted to talk to you about your views on like the number one criticism that we got after we chatted, mostly comments that are beautiful and kind and all that was, that's not Christian. And this is one of my pet peeves in general, but I would like to hear how you operate within that Christian belief, but
Mhm.
also living in sin like we all do.
Yeah, everybody does. That's what people forget is like I understand that there's many pieces of the Bible where we are meant to strive to be perfect in Christ, but we're not. That's the point. That's why we need Him. So it's upsetting when people criticize me for that, but on the other hand, I feel like I've purposefully landed in this space to try and create a bridge between those people, because no matter what, people deserve to be loved and understood unless they're hurting people. um, so as far as being, a quote unquote gay Christian, it's not something I ever really intended on. It is what it is, but Matt and I just met and it happened. And yes, I think that makes me a little bit gay. So, there's the radical belief that like because Matt says he's a man, and I'm like, like, I mean, not necessarily. I don't really believe that, because biologically that's not who he's born, but he's classified as intersex. He's got his own story, so there's that. But again, I'm with this group, Gays Against Groomers, and I mean, I love them. We don't all believe the same thing. We don't all
Right.
agree on the same thing. It's a nonpartisan group. It's not meant to be a political thing. Um, so there's obviously some people in there that I pray for, and that's okay. We can still be friends, and I want the best for people, but you can't force it on them. I know that from experience. I had to come to Christ myself and figure out my purpose for being in this space, and I know that it's to advocate for children, and that should be something we can all agree on. So whether or not you see me as living in sin, at least let's agree on that. Because I'm in a monogamous relationship. I'm not bothering anybody. I'm not trying to put my lifestyle on anyone. I don't particularly enjoy going to flamboyant parades or anything. I'm not in that space in that sense.
Right.
So, like I said, it kind of is what it is. I never really intended to be here, but here I
Right.
am. So I'm going to make the best of it, and I'm going to love people because that's what we're supposed to do.
Yes, I actually, because of it, and because I really think you're so beautiful, and I think you're so, and when I say beautiful, I mean like your soul, and you're interesting and you're fun. Like you had another one of your like TikToks go crazy viral again. Like I think the
Oh,
last time I looked, it had 500,000 views.
yeah.
That's so exciting. Why don't you tell everybody that, and then I'll come back around to what I was going to share about the gay Christian thing.
Well, I put in my 2 cents on this whole Balenciaga stuff, right? I was like, look, Kanye was working with this company all the way up until a few weeks before they dropped him. He
Mhm.
opened for one of their shows at the beginning of October. He's all over the place. I'm sure he's been through a lot, but let's not put people up on a pedestal. Let's be careful who we trust. Pray for Kanye, but don't, I mean, don't, he's not exactly speaking gospel, but I think he knows that he's sort of reaping what he's sown in the past, from what I can tell. However, right after this video, he went on InfoWars and started saying it was just a roller coaster. I mean, I haven't watched the whole thing yet, so keep that in mind. I understand there's context, but it's almost like he wanted to be as extreme as possible. So he came on the show still wearing a Balenciaga piece of clothing, the mask on his face, still supporting the company. Then he went on talking about how Hitler has redeeming qualities. And even Alex Jones is like, whoa. And so on the commercial break during this episode, my clip played. On a Reese report, he had integrated my clip into his report.
Wow, that's fun,
And
but also
yeah,
interesting.
I was like, I don't know. Oh dear. I was like, did Kanye see my video? I was like, but apparently they didn't talk about it. I mean, I could only assume that maybe Kanye was sitting there probably watching the commercial break. So I was like, oh, like
Yeah.
that's weird. But it is what it is, like I don't understand why people are still sort of trying to align with him. I know they try to explain away this stuff, but for me, there's a line. And
Yeah.
like,
There's lots of questions. Well, and
mhm,
that kind of gets me to where I think anytime somebody is, so here's where I think the Christians have a hang up.
mhm,
But hear me out, because it's not a criticism. It is, there's a conjunction at the end of this. The conjunction is and. So
mhm,
the reason that I think a lot of Christians have an issue with the whole living in homosexuality sin is because you're actively living in it. But what I would like to add to that, the and that I would like to have is, does that mean everyone that is actively living as a divorced person is actively living in sin? And I'm asking, like, I really feel like these are the conversations we need to have. I believe there's a heck of a lot more people out there in idol worship daily with labels, with money, with
yeah,
their own spouses, with their jobs, with their alcohol. I mean, absolute idol worship.
mhm,
And so when I was researching, because you were coming on, I was so excited that I found this article, and it had this like quote, and it just said, a voice of a Christian. Okay, here it says, "You're wrong and you're loved. That's the unique voice of a Christian."
right.
And I absolutely love that, because I'm a lover, not a fighter. I truly believe that if we act and speak and show and love and hold faith, and then we will be purified over time on those things, and those exact things will not only deliver our own salvation, but they will begin affecting the people around us. And it's so, like, Jesus really tried to bring this home with the woman at the well, right? And no one could throw a stone at her. And I just think that it breaks my heart that people would be mad at you because you're in an active sin, when millions of people are in active sin. And let me tell you, there's a lot of sin that you can't see. There's invisible
Oh, yeah.
sin that people can be under, and nobody has any idea. And what
Yeah.
about the millions of Christians that live together, right? They're living together. They're actively in sin. And so I just wanted to cover that, because I feel like if someone could listen to us and talk about what's going on with this, groomers movement, and the only comment that they have is this person's actively in sin.
I think they're
Um,
missing the point.
yeah, do you see what
It's
I'm
it's
saying?
it's sort of a shame, because again, we should be able to like at least come together on this issue, whether or not you think someone is living wrong according to you.
Right.
And you are not God. You are not the final judgment. It's not up to you necessarily. You can say, well, it's in the Bible. All right, sure, but it is still between them and God to have that relationship, to navigate it and eventually figure it out or not, but I point this out all the time. Jesus didn't hang out with people who didn't need him. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah. I
So
get criticized a lot for the people that I hang out with. I hang out with everyone, but
yeah, so do I.
when it's in particular former porn stars or guys out of jail or whatever it is, people get really torqued.
It's as if there's no redemption allowed. They think that like you're supposed to be this perfect Christian the whole way through, but some of the strongest testimonies are from these people who have learned the hard way, and like they're like, Jesus got me out of this hole. He led me out of this darkness. Yes, I was fully in sin, and now I'm learning, and now I'm walking with him, and it's not totally perfect, but it's better than what it used to be. Everyone's on their own walk, and it's going to look a little bit different from your own. And so that's why it's just not up to you to really say that. But if it's not necessarily harming you, and I'm in this group trying to protect children, and I'm not trying to push any sort of lifestyle on people. In fact, I'm kind of trying to do the opposite and reel it in, and call for accountability within the gay community for being so extreme and getting us to this point. If all you take away from that is that, oh, I'm not living how you think I should, please move on. Okay, like it's just kind of outrageous to me, the
And I'm
right.
cool with that too. Move on. I am going to go by you're wrong and you're loved.
Yeah.
That's the unique voice of a Christian. I'm going to say that 100 times during our deal here. I love what you just said too. You're trying to dial it back. And it's interesting while I was reading these articles about why it gets under people's skin. And it was really good pastors like trying to express love, but tackling a pretty big concept. One of the things that he pointed out was that I think politics has figured out that this is a pressure point, and it's an easy thing to place people to get someone riled up, right?
Right.
And so when you said trying to dial it back, I'm like, oh, I'm really interested in this because I was actually really convicted. I was like, I'm a divorced person. God says don't get divorced. God also says he abhors divorce. He also says that it's not good for me. And I've said this a million times. I agree. Divorce is really hard.
Yeah.
It's a hard thing to maneuver. I think I've done a fabulous job with as much grace as I can, but technically I'm not back with my husband. I have no intention to get back with him, right? And so I'm staying in that situation, but it did make me wonder if I should repent on it. Like there's so many more questions we have, and we only have the Bible to go by.
Yeah.
And as much as I've read it, I still consider myself a new Christian.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, I was raised Episcopalian, right? And I read a lot of it, and it didn't really, it didn't sink in, comprehend, whatever you want to call it. It's not, I didn't necessarily take it to heart. Like, I think a lot of Christians like go through the motions of what they think they're supposed to be doing, and they don't necessarily have that full connection, but they keep trying. Whereas I had a situation where I had kind of walked away from it all, and he found me and pulled me back into it. And now like I literally crave reading the Bible regularly, and that has never happened to me before. So like I know I'm here for a reason. I know that I'm supposed to be doing what I'm doing now. And it's okay if you don't agree with my lifestyle or whatever, but let's at least agree that we want to protect children from said lifestyle or whatever, because I'm not trying to push it on anybody. If anything,
Yeah.
it's quite the opposite. I'm trying to call it out and say, hey, this is why, these communities are at war, because the gay community has pushed these boundaries and crossed a line, several lines a while ago. So I can understand why people feel the way they do, but I still think they need to behave a little bit better when it comes to trying to pass judgment on people, because we live in a very sinful world. It's a very imperfect world. And
Add.
like I said, I'm sure that there is several verses on how we should strive to be perfect like Christ, but we never will be. And
Right.
that's why we need him. So I would rather embody the love of Christ than try to pass my judgment on people all the time.
So
It's
good.
not my job.
So good. And so, talk to us a little bit about like what you're seeing right now on the landscape and where you think your highest and best use is, if that makes sense.
Well, I'll be at AmFest with Gays Against Groomers in a few weeks here, raising awareness for the organization. In general, I just want people to sort of be more self-aware and trying to encourage a lot of critical thinking and reconsideration of former ideas and beliefs, perhaps, and how we can try to find a common ground and agree to disagree, but come together on what's really important.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to inspire in people. And just there's been a lot of miscommunication due to all the misinformation, and people are really emotional and they tend to jump to conclusions and pass a lot of self-righteous judgment when they think it's righteous judgment, and it's not necessarily. And I mean, I understand that some people think that I'm trying to judge people when I call people out like Kanye, but I'm really just trying to say we need to be careful who we're trusting. We don't know the whole picture. We really don't. And I'm saying some symbolism that I don't like, but it is, if I would still meet Kanye, shake his hand, and have a conversation with him. Do you know what I mean? I wouldn't
Of
spit on him
course.
or
Of
anything. It would
course.
just be like, hey, why'd you say all those things about Hitler, man? That's pretty crazy. Like I'm the kind of person who has to meet someone myself, who has to talk to someone myself, read the book, watch the film, watch the series myself. You can't talk about something if you don't know.
Right.
And so obviously that's what I'm trying to do with the Bible. I'm still studying, still reading a lot. I'm getting way more familiar with it every single day. And like I said, like I want to read it. That's never happened to me before. So I'm ignoring criticism. You can think what you want. You're not allowed to gatekeep Jesus. You can't tell people that. It's just silly, So you can disagree with me or not, but you can't
Yeah.
stop me from walking with God. So, if you don't understand it, that's okay. I'm still figuring it out myself, but I think I'm here for a reason. And I'm not trying to hurt anybody. I'm trying to help us unify on what matters.
Yes. Yes. And I think that both of us clearly understand, regardless of where we stand in our station of life, that we are really and truly supposed to be coming together and not we're supposed to be looking for reasons to exemplify and to embody all of the good things. And so your cup is 3/4 full with different talents and different missions than this person who's 3/4 full with whatever. And we're all lacking in some area. It was interesting because I got big time rabbit hole this week on the sin of a witch and heresy, and how it was a book written in the 1400s, and it was a translation from the early 1900s. And one of the things that I thought was so crazy is that all of the things that they were accusing the witches of doing are kind of what the groomers, so to speak, are doing. One of which was making sure that things were happening in schools. And also, I thought this was so interesting that they were purposely being like the ones that deliver babies. And yeah, I thought that was so crazy because, and giving them medicine, like giving them tinctures that were dangerous. And I just thought that is so crazy how this is going on to this day. We might not call them witches, but I think really that if you look at the true definition of a witch, It is somebody who is aligning or making a pact with the devil. And so even someone who manipulates is technically a witch. And who hasn't been guilty of manipulating, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of like sort of Wiccan type people might disagree with you on that definition because of, I mean, I looked into it when I was a teenager because I thought it was like trendy and cool or whatever.
Yeah,
Um, you know, they have this idea that there's like a mother and father earth, but the mother is like this is superior and this whole feminine energy thing. But a lot of it is also very ego based. I mean, the spiritual new age movement now is like, you're your own God, do
yeah,
whatever you want, but do whatever you want, do what thou wilt is a satanic belief.
right.
And that's what's spreading around like wildfire, but like just among a lot of communities is like, oh, follow your heart, do whatever you want, but your heart's a liar. And you're disrespecting the creator when you do that. And I understand there are people who don't believe that, and I'll leave it up to them. And then, I'll just leave them to it. That's okay. Obviously I'd rather see my loved ones in heaven, but I know I'm still working on an approach to tell people about Jesus. You have to be very gentle because I was the type of person that really rejected a lot of it for a long time.
Yes.
Was very aggressive even when it was brought up. And I think a lot of that was because I had like a demon on my back. That and then it causes this emotional reaction when you even bring it up. Like, and that's how I knew. I was like, it was almost like I was possessed with something at one point. And, once that spirit left me, I had to change my whole life. And, and I've been married before. I'm divorced too. A lot of people don't know that. So I've had my conviction about a lot of things, a lot of mistakes that I've made in the past too. And if I just gave up and was like, well, I guess I'm just going to hell, I'm never going to do any good for the world. I'm not going to be any good if I just sit back and go, well, this person says I can't be a Christian, so I guess I'm just done.
Well, and that was what that's why when I first started this channel, I started it because I felt like there were very many people in the wilderness. They weren't really connected to a church, but I felt like they actually had hearts for God. And I do believe there's that purity thing. As a matter of fact, I was reading it this morning. I think it was in Second Timothy, but it was literally about how the pure in heart will see God.
But that's Matthew 5:8.
Oh, it's Matthew. Okay.
That's actually one of my favorite verses. It's
Oh,
Matthew
that's
5:8.
awesome. Yeah, I what I do is I pick kind of a concept, and today I picked purity.
Mhm.
And so I started looking at all the purity verses, and that one really stood out to me because
Yeah.
it's always just been even as a child, trying to figure out what religion was because my parents weren't into it. I was always kind of like, well, it just makes sense if you're nice, you know?
Yeah.
And I do see the difference between nice and accepting Christ, but I also really understand that there's that purity that it's actually become something I desire more and more of. It's like a craving like you have for truth. And I just think it's so important, but also there is a verse that talks to Christians telling them to do exactly what you said, and that's to do so gently.
Mhm.
I get criticized a lot also for you weren't hard enough on that person, or and
That's not your job.
I don't think it's my job. I think
No.
it's my job to exemplify the love and the purity and the faith and the beautiful speech and the beautiful conduct. And then I have a shot at possibly slipping in a seed. And then it's up to God whether that seed actually gets watered and fortified in whatever way. But I 100% agree with you, and I would like to see more people finding common ground than finding things to be angry about.
Yeah. It's getting really tiresome, frankly, and disappointing to see Christians rejecting people who are just trying to help, because of how they're living or whatever. Like, I'm not going to name any names, but there was a really big account that I was following for a while, and he like made a public announcement that he was against gays against groomers. And I was like, but why? Like, we're trying to help and we're trying to keep your kids from being indoctrinated, and we don't want the gay lifestyle taught to children, and we don't want kids in these spaces. So what's the problem? Like, so that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm sure he had his own flaws, and I just, it's disappointing when that happens again, because we can agree to disagree, but let's come together on what really matters. You may not be able to change everyone, and you may disagree with their lifestyle, but if it's not hurting you and it doesn't affect you, all you can do is pray for them. It's between them and God. But to openly like spew hatred at people who are really just trying to help,
Yeah.
even if they're imperfect.
Well, I also see, and I'm curious about this because I think this is a really good question, and I feel comfortable asking you. If you want to defer, then just be like, I don't want to answer. But one of the things that I wonder is, does this position that you're in now, the reaction that you're getting, the pushback that you're getting from it, does it make you kind of go, oh, maybe that's the same pushback the other people are giving against gays? Only, do you see what I'm saying? Like, the line's just different. So you do see that.
Yeah, I mean, I understand why convicted Christians feel like they need to be righteously against homosexuality. Sure.
Right.
But like I said, you can't control everybody. You can't make everyone believe the same thing. And there's this whole debate about the translations of the Bible, which people agree and disagree on whether or not it was pedophilia or homosexuality in the end.
Right.
But we should at least agree on that line there.
Yep.
You don't have to be gay to support gays against groomers. And we don't want this lifestyle put on children. We're not trying to make everybody like us. That's the point. We
Yeah.
don't believe that the gay community is a monolith. We think they've kind of ruined it for everybody, because it's with a lot of things, like some things just aren't going away. You can't make them go away. Yeah. So it's again, I feel like I'm in this space on purpose, and I remember that again, Jesus was not around people who needed him. There's a verse, I can't remember where it was right now, but he said a doctor doesn't go to the healthy. Basically, he's like, I'm here for sick people. And so I would rather be in this group and love them through it,
Yeah.
and just try to help because I agree with the cause. And I know, like I said, I never really intended to be in this space. Matt didn't even want to come out. Somebody sort of forced him to do that.
I remember. That's so horrible.
Yeah, so we were just gonna like live our lives. Do you know what I mean? Like we weren't
Yes.
really gonna talk about it.
I'm sorry you didn't get to do that, but I'm also very thankful.
Yeah, it's okay. We turned it around. That's just what you have to do. So, like I said, it is what it is, but it's disappointing that we can't at least come together on that. I
Yeah.
don't like seeing people treat each other like that, no matter what, and not representing that love that we need so badly right now, because everyone's angry, everyone's yelling at each other, everyone's disagreeing, and we need to try to promote more civil discourse instead of just like, I don't like you, so I don't care what you're about, like
Yes. And
rude.
not only that, but bring joy back. Like, I remember going to restaurants and almost every waiter, maybe 9 out of 10 of them, were fun. They were flirty, not in a gross way, but like in a loving, like brotherly, let's keep the vibe going here. And now like waiters like barely smile or
The serving industry is like on its last thread, I swear. People have had enough.
yeah, and it's just it's heartbreaking because really what they're doing is they're exuding what's really inside of them. And it takes so much more to get people in that playful mode again. I think they've lost the ability to remember what it's like to be a kid and have that pure heart.
Yeah.
Play with anyone,
Yeah.
chat with anyone, get on the monkey bars with whoever's around, like let's just enjoy this world that we live in. Is there fun sides to this Gay Against Groomers mission?
Well, yeah, the fun side is like we renting an Airbnb and we're all going to meet each other and we're all going to, I haven't even met some of these people. So that's what's the crazy thing is we're going to get together, we're going to have fun and get to know each other and just let people know that it's okay to be imperfect as long as we are not putting that imperfection on our children and leading them the wrong way and confusing them and letting them figure it out for themselves, letting kids be kids
Hmm.
and not bending to any trends because at this point, I mean, I don't know how people don't see it, how dangerous this movement is for kids. And another thing is that I think Matt would say if you were here, the NHS, the British National Health Society Institute, I think it is, have closed Tavistock Institute and announced that they believe that this whole trans thing, as far as trans kids, most of those trans kids, so-called, are going through a phase. It is temporary, and
Right.
therefore they should not be taking hormones. They should not be undergoing any surgeries. They should not be making any permanent changes. And so that's what GAG's main mission is about, just trying to preserve innocence and fun again and not taking kids to inappropriate events because we're all desensitized and we all think this is normal or whatever and it's not normal.
Yeah.
And some Christians argue, well, neither are gay people, but I understand what they mean because there's
Yeah.
a very perverse aspect of the gay lifestyle. I see it, I'm aware of it. There's a lot of promiscuity. I do not condone it. It's gross. I don't like it. And so I understand pride is a sin. Literally, there's a whole Pride Month. I don't condone it. It is what it is. And I just think like as far as the people in Gays Against Groomers, they genuinely feel like they just are who they are, and they don't want to push it on people. They
Right.
can't necessarily help it, but they don't want
Well, and
kids,
that's what somebody in the chat
subjected
had
to it.
said earlier, like, who you are in your bedroom with really is your business. And I understand that yours got put out there publicly without approval. But ultimately it had God's approval. And that's the way I look at it. No matter what comes forward about any of us, it is absolutely God ordained, and it could be your greatest moment to stand up and emulate the very thing that Christ would love for you to emulate. And look at all of the people, and I know this is like beating a dead horse, but like literally look at the people that God chose to talk about in the Bible. They're a mess.
They are a mess. I mean,
They're a
look at King
mess.
David. He saw a woman he liked, he slept with her, and he killed her husband.
So he could have her.
Yeah. So I just don't want to hear people like, well, I don't like the way you're living. Okay. Why didn't you read a book?
Yeah,
Because
speaking of that, tell me what book you think would be the best book for people to understand what Gays Against Groomers is, basically trying to share with people, or what would be the best information about what you were saying. What'd you call it? Bend to
well,
the trend or something?
I was gonna say we don't exactly have like a book or anything. I mean, you can go to our website and read our mission statement. You can go to gaysagainstgroomers.com. We've got an updated team page. I'm helping with communications right now and press releases and reaching out to people and just expressing what we're trying to do. And there's a lot of misinformation and a lot of misunderstanding with that. People think that because we don't agree with the extreme radical gay movement right now, that we're just like far right Nazis. We must be evil. And I'm like, no, we just want people to act more reasonable. Like it's just, we're not actually asking for much. This used to be common sense.
Right.
And again, the gay movement has got completely out of control. I understand why people disagree with that lifestyle, but when it comes to Christians, I just need you to try and listen to them,
Yep.
especially, and understand that they're just trying to help. And they're like, look, some kids may grow up to be gay. It is what it is, but don't tell them to be trans.
Right.
It could really harm them in the future. Let them figure it out. So it's just, we try to find that, again, sort of that common ground, that place in the middle, that bridge that's like, we're not really for this or this. We're trying to be in the middle. We're just trying to let people live, let kids grow up normally. Like, we don't know what's happening to childhood innocence, and a lot of people blame that on the gay community. So I myself have called for accountability within the gay community, because I'm like, these are some of the reasons people don't like us, because they're looking at this and this, and they're blaming the entire gay community. And we're saying, hey, this does not represent people like us,
Right.
and we should be allowed to say that. But there's a lot of disagreements online, and if you disagree with somebody, you're automatically an evil Nazi. So
Yeah,
that's
but I
fun.
think it's been perfectly placed. I don't think it's an accident because think about it. They could literally get that fanatical in mainstream media about active drinkers.
Yeah.
It is very clear that alcohol is bad. It's very clear that it definitely attaches darkness to your
Oh yeah.
soul. I mean, there's no doubt in my mind. And we don't have a whole bunch of people out there going active drinkers, we're so mad at you. Like active drinkers are bad.
Right.
Active drinkers are they're literally teaching kids how to drink, or you know what I mean? Like there's no
Yeah.
like,
They
and it's the
there's
same
yeah,
concept,
totally.
and there's plenty of people that have smoked weed or drank with their children.
Yeah. Yeah. And the thing is, like, alcohol's been so embedded and normalized into our culture, and that's one reason. And I understand that's what this radical movement is trying to do. It's trying to embed itself into culture and change the rules, because that's kind of what alcohol did. It was just like, oh well, this is totally normal. When they tried to ban it, everybody wanted it more. During prohibition, they were like, okay, well, we can't stop it, so we'll just allow it. And now we're at the point where, yeah, basically kids want to drink earlier and earlier, and you have people like Ellen DeGeneres having little kids on their show drinking fancy non-alcoholic drinks like all the grown-ups do, because that's the cool thing. And that was one thing that made me really really dislike her, when I noticed she was teaching this little boy how to drink, because look, you're just like all the adults at the party. And I was like, no, no,
I'm guilty
no.
of doing that with my daughter.
I was like,
I
this is
love it when you
sneaky.
catch me in my sins.
Sorry, it's sneaky. But there is so much that we could go in circles or talk on and on and on about sin in this world, and what people deem as normal when it's actually pretty harmful. There's a lot. So when Christians just pinpoint, oh well, I don't like you because you're gay, so I'm not going to listen to you, it's kind of a waste, because there are a lot of other
Well, and
things.
it
So I'm
goes
not.
back to the body of Christ too, because we are all, as professed Christians, we are all citizens of heaven,
Mhm.
a part of the body of Christ. I think those are two really important phrases because I think that gets down to the very basics. And if you can get down to the very basics, like, okay, I have declared that I am a citizen of heaven, that is where my allegiance lies, more so than to my family, more so than to my nation. And that I desire to connect directly with God, which you've done, and this is where he wants you at this point in time, and you feel good about it. And if everyone did that, we would probably be the most powerful, unbelievable, but everyone's too busy saying, I don't like where you are in the body. I
Right.
want you to be over here in the body.
And that's,
Instead of just trusting that God put this,
yeah.
God literally landed this whole thing on you.
Yeah, and it's not up to us to direct the body of Christ. It's up to God. So, and I think there's also a part in the Bible that speaks about how we all represent different parts of the body. You need a head, you need arms, legs, torso, feet. Like, and it's going to look differently. Like I said earlier, people's walks with God are going to look differently, and then we all are going to have different gifts. Like I think in Acts it talks about spirit being poured over, and sons and daughters having dreams and visions, and then I want to say it's in like either Chronicles of Corinthians about people having different gifts that we need to use together.
Yeah.
And so it's been really interesting because again, this isn't where I expect it to be necessarily. Was it like in the beginning when I woke up, I do remember I had at one point been asked to do like a brand thing with a gay brand, and I wore one of their shirts in an Instagram post like one time, and then I was like, I'm not really feeling it. I don't really feel like this is what I want to do, you know? And so I was just going through some stuff at the time. I was still getting the layers peeled off of me, but I was like, this doesn't feel right. So I dropped it and I just waited. And this is where I ended up still. And the thing is, my relationship with Matt is what drew me to Christ in the first place. So, and then people try to look down on that, but I'm like, but this led me here.
Yeah. And that's how it was a little bit for me, because even though I was a Christian, a lot of the occult information and a lot of the occult concepts and looking at different things. And when I say occult, I don't mean dark. I just mean mysterious, hidden,
Yeah.
whatever. And they allowed for an expansion to happen in my brain that literally God just filled it.
Yeah.
It was so cool. It was like stretch, 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 and then he just took it over. It's like, yep, now you get it. That was mine.
I think that's what happened to me as well, because like like I said, I'm a curious person. I will look into things myself. I'll read the book myself, watch the movie, and go, okay. Because I'm not just going to necessarily listen to people when they're like, oh, that's a cult, that's esoteric. Don't look at it. Don't touch it. I'm like, well, why? Why do you think that? And so I'm strong enough in my faith that I know that reading something isn't going to pull me away from God. I'm not just going to suddenly go, wow, I think I want to serve the devil from reading one book, because I'm already here.
Yeah.
But I need to understand this world, and I need to see it for myself. So that's
Same, girl.
that's my thing.
Same.
So whether curiosity is going to kill the cat, we'll see. But I feel like I'm right where I'm supposed to be, and I've never really had that feeling. So like I said, it's okay if people don't necessarily see it, understand it, or agree with it.
And I think that is the key. And it makes me, I'm like rewinding what you said about the body. Like the people are like that they can't see where you are in the body.
Right.
And I think that comes from not being able to see people's gifts, because we go, oh, I don't approve of your sin. So that's like this shield that goes up.
Yeah.
And now they can't see the gifts that you have that were God given. And it just reminds me of, I always use this analogy too when I'm working with my clients, because a lot of times when people have their kids involved in something, they can't see right. Like they lose the ability. They want to control their children. and I'm always telling them, but think about it. Hummingbirds, geese, all of these animals know what to do, and they all go to certain places. They migrate together, and they're not calling each other. They're not checking it out on the internet. They're literally tuning into God. Believe that your child has that ability, and not only your child, but your fellow man. Because if I go, wow, I really like Judith. Now, I'm not one of those people that judges anybody because I've done so many things wrong. I'm like, I'm not the girl to say that. Like if I lived all pious my whole life, I could do it. But I'm like, no, not in me to criticize anybody. But let's say that I did. I really like her, but this. I am really discounting the fact that you have the ability to connect to God on your own and listen to him and go moment by moment. I also have a question for you too on repentance, because it got me thinking about it, reading the stuff about how, for some reason people seem to think homosexuality is a worse sin, and it's not. It's just a highlighted sin. So if like, let's say with me, it's the divorce thing. And with you, it's that, oh, I forgot where I was going with that. It had something to do with the spiritual gifts. Ah, I hate when I do that because I'm like spending so
Oh,
much time setting it up.
okay. Well, I mean, some people I think believe in like a hierarchy of sin and they try to act like they know what's worse than the other thing. I think we can all agree like murder and rape are pretty much some of the worst things you can do. And if we're not harming other people, we're just struggling to be perfect. It happens, you
That's what
know,
it
and
was, repentance.
repentance. There we go.
So I have come to a belief, and I know this is going to sound like, I'm making up my own, I'm making up my own rules, and I'm just sharing my experience.
Mhm.
But the more often I repent for a sin, I believe it becomes easier and easier to let go of.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Uh, because that's like how I let go of like consuming stuff like porn a couple years ago. I just stopped cold turkey, just completely dropped
Bravo.
it. And then so now I just tell other people, I'm like, you really shouldn't be watching any of that for so many reasons.
Yeah.
Like, first of all, like a lot of these sites are supporting human trafficking and child porn because of it was filmed in another country, it doesn't count. And so you don't even know what you're watching.
Right.
And second of all, it messes with your brain chemistry
Hmm.
and it just gives the wrong message about what a relationship is supposed to be and what intimacy is supposed to be. It just messes you up.
Yes.
So I got very convicted about that, but that's because I know I've been through it. I
Right.
understand how it messes you up. And a lot of it seems to me like a lot of Christians, they want to judge other people and try to act like they're above all this stuff because they've never been through it. But again, some of the strongest testimonies I've heard are from people who have really been through darkness. And a lot of
Yes.
other Christians are just going through the motions, but they don't have a real relationship with God.
I'm in 100% agreement with you. 100%. I have a question if you don't mind me asking. So was it a slow release? Like, you're doing too much porn and then you repent and then you do a little more porn and then you repent and then slowly it released, or was it like a quick,
No, it was like, I'm done. I don't need to see this
oh,
anymore.
wow, good for you.
And that's how I quit cigarettes too. I was like, I'm good. I don't know. For me, it's just like once I decide something, I'm just like, yep,
You
we're
just
done.
get convicted and it's over. That's
Yeah.
so cool. Yeah. I
I-
still have alcohol as one of mine. It's just one of those things that I just keep repenting for because I really would like to live a completely alcohol-free life. But like you were saying, about the Ellen thing, I think they put it in every movie. They put it in, every commercial while you're watching, there's beer commercials every time. Like, and I'm not gonna lie, those things, they tickle my
I get you.
fancy, so to
Yeah.
speak. I'm like, oh, that sounds good. That sounds
They know how to
relaxing.
get you. And like the thing is, I know there's a big debate on this too, because people drink wine in the Bible and Jesus turned water into wine at a wedding because his mom told him to, you know. But I think what he's talking about is like really letting it ruin your life and getting drunk all the time.
Right.
I think there's a level of drinking that at least wine of like some kind of more or less, I don't know how you say, classic beverage or like original beverage, whatever. I don't know.
Yeah.
You know what I'm trying to say?
Yes.
Like
No, for sure. I
wine's one of the
totally.
first things out there that, and I think it's just a matter of excess,
Yes.
you know,
Well, and
and
also it says in the
control.
scriptures too to take a little bit of wine with your water for your stomach,
Right.
which is also really interesting. And then when you think about when they originally created beer, or what they used to call mead, it was often because they needed something to get themselves through the winter. And if they fermented the wheat, then they could drink the beer for sustenance, which I think sounds kind of fun. I love beer.
Yeah,
I don't want to
it
love it,
actually
but I
does.
do.
I mean, it's kind of like eating a bunch of bread, but at the same time, that's what got them through it, you know? So
Yeah.
we have to remember that it was invented for kind of survival and health purposes, and it's turned into a whole poisonous culture. And I think it's just a matter of control because like I have some every now and then on an occasion, but I don't go crazy. It's like a holiday or
Right.
just an evening with
Which
my
I think
friends
is
at
like the ideal
home.
thing if you are going to drink. But
Yeah,
many people are saying, drinking and drunkenness are two different things.
yeah,
But
that's what I think too.
I will tell you all day long, I'm a one or two,
Yep.
tops three beer kind of person, or tops two wine. And that is not drunkenness.
Mhm.
But I promise you, every single time I get visited at 3 o'clock in the morning when my liver's getting cleaned out, and they're never good thoughts. Now, the
Yeah,
good news is I've mastered enough of understanding how the spirit world works that I know
yeah,
that's not. I'm not going to allow those thoughts into my
yeah.
head. I'm not going to, I'm just going to. But to me, that I don't think Jesus would want that. Like, I really am just saying, I just don't. It's just my opinion, but it's also something I'm still actively fighting.
Yeah, I understand that because again, there seems to be a differentiation between the two. But definitely there is a spiritual aspect to like cannabis and alcohol. They seem to open doors, and most people don't know how to deal with it when those doors are open. So if you are still participating in these things, at least know what you're doing and
Yeah,
don't do it excessively, and understand that
great
you may
point.
be facing spiritual warfare if you do, and be ready for it. And
Right.
that's my main advice is like you can't stop people from doing something, right? Everyone's got their own sin that they struggle with, or perhaps the vice or whatever. Don't let it ruin your life. Pray on it as often as you can and just see where that takes you.
And I
Yeah.
think that I think it's so valuable because um, many people will admit I'm drinking too much, or but they don't know how to manage it. I mean, I work with people for a living that come to me for all different things. And let me tell you that those little voices are consistent to anyone that drinks. You shouldn't have done that. You're already fat. Why'd you, drink? It's just it led to you eating. Why'd you do that? Because you wouldn't have eaten if you hadn't have done this. And so if you can't recognize them, you're correct. They're trying to get that hook in, and the hook could be self-abuse through the way you talk. The hook could be more drinking, um, you know, whatever. But I do think that, and I just felt like this was like a really important piece to the criticism that Gays Against Groomers gets,
Yeah.
and I felt like it would be really good for other people to hear it.
Yeah, I understand. Like I said before, I understand that, but it is a shame
Yeah.
because I just wish people would like maybe get to know us a little bit. You might understand that like we're really not trying to push this sort of thing on people. We know that some of these kids could grow up to be gay, but we're not trying to make them that way.
Right.
We're just saying like, hey, you can't just tell this kid to be trans because maybe he's just having some confused feelings. Puberty is hard. We all had a hard time and we all had to figure out on our own they yes we were in fact gay, we couldn't escape that, and then we had to decide what to do next,
Yeah.
because myself, I even like I had this phase in high school where I was like, what if I'm gay, and I was like afraid of it. I was like praying it away. I was like, I don't want that. Like I've never really intended it. So, and it just kind of happened with Matt, and again he inspired me to embrace Christ. So what can I say? It's just been an interesting journey. So I'm just here to try to encourage that bridge and say, hey, let's agree on what matters right now because there's enough war and conflict in the world, and we need to be trying to embody the love of Christ more than this self-righteous judgment I'm seeing going around that
Yeah.
prevented me from embracing it in the first place for many years. Other
And
people
that's the
tend to kind of
stones that they throw. Like, here, I'm going to keep throwing these stones at you while you're trying to walk into the church.
yeah, and that's okay. I'm facing persecution on like multiple levels here, but I was prepared for that, like
You're
I
a
got a
tough
bunch of
one.
hate for one of their articles that I wrote for Gays Against Groomers because I was discussing sort of the Colorado shooting at the Club Q, which was awful, horrible. I don't wish any kind of violence or death on gay
Please
people.
update
Um,
everyone on this because I don't know anything about this one. I didn't
well,
I didn't dig into it.
it was kind of strange in the end. I need a new update on it because I don't actually know what happened after what I'm about to tell you. So, a shooter came into this specifically gay club and killed 5 people, injured many more. And so everyone was jumping on like conservative media. They were like, they got blood on your hand. You have blood on your hands because you guys are encouraging anti-gay hate, blah, 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 blah. You're encouraging extremism against gays, blah, 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 blah. And then there's a press release, and the lawyers have said, our client, the shooter, is a non-binary who prefers they, them pronouns. And I was like,
So for
plot
those
twist.
of us who don't know what non-binary is, and we probably should, I don't know, what does non-binary mean?
Okay, so it's someone who claims to reject gender roles and gender norms and
At
consider
all.
themselves neither a male or a female
Got it.
despite their biology. It's something that I used to sort of understand more than I do now because like there's almost reinforcing gender stereotypes with it. You know what I mean? They're like, well, I'm gonna dress like a boy and say that I'm not a woman or a boy. And it's sort of just like, and sort yourself out, man. But like you have to do the same thing. But it's like look, we don't have to label it. What do you need that for? Like you can be a slightly masculine woman or a slightly feminine man, be yourself, but why do you need that?
Right. It's
Anyway,
just
sorry.
I literally can't keep up with it. To me, it's like financial terms and I'm just like,
It's getting crazy. So anyway, um, there's the argument that his lawyers were using this to lump him in with the radical gay community to get him out of like a harsh sentence, right? There's people that are like, oh well, he's just making that up, and so I was like, okay, let's say he is. That proves that this radical gay movement is dangerous and it can be used as a shield to protect harmful
I see what you're saying.
criminals and predators. And if he is actually non-binary, they, them, if he really genuinely identifies as that, he just killed a bunch of people. Like we should maybe question how stable he was and why he was in that headspace that he was rejecting himself.
Yeah. It's
So
identity
either
stripping
way,
in my mind in a lot of ways, for sure.
yes, you are
Um,
making yourself dehumanized and easier to be dismissed as a nobody, in my opinion.
yeah. Yeah. Well, and we could go off on another tangent about all of the crazy stuff with like criminals just walking into Apple stores and just grabbing everything
Oh
in
yeah, broad daylight now. They're
broad
just like,
daylight.
this is mine. And then the people working there aren't allowed to do anything. They just
They're
have to watch it
pushing people
happen.
away. Leave them alone, let them
Yeah,
go,
they're
let them
like,
go. And then like you can hear somebody going, "Should I do something?"
anyway, so I wrote this article about how that was an issue. I was like, look, either he's lying or he's not lying, but it's a problem.
Either
Either
way.
way. And I was like, this is why people don't like the gay community. This is the other stuff that Gays Against Groomers doesn't approve of. I got told to kill myself. So, I do get a lot of positive comments, but when I try to call for accountability and call things out and say, hey, this is not good. We need to talk about this. There are some people who just sort of like immediately go to like go die, like
Which is exactly what Jesus was warning us about.
right.
That when we actually do stand in the truth that he inspired within us, regardless of the amount of sin we're involved in, it will happen. And I haven't had it to that extent, but I've had a lot of. Anytime you do something publicly, you're going to get a lot of criticism. But it is there's a difference when it's actually like and it's the enemy. It almost makes it less powerful in some ways to me. I'm kind of like, it's just the enemy. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like, again, Jesus hung out with people who were very imperfect. He knew what Judas was going to do the second he met him. He still broke bread with him and traveled with him, and he knew what was going to happen, and I just don't think we should be pushing each other away so quickly because everyone has something to teach you.
No way. I mean, I'm in such agreement with you. And like I said, I'm a lover, not a fighter. And I believe that that comes from a place of having fought so hard on so many levels that you realize it's literally like the hamster wheel. You know, you're just going around and around in a circle until you decide one day that love really is the answer. Like it literally is the answer. Oh, I'm going to read that quote again. But it is the answer. It's the thing that's going to hold us together. It's the thing that can allow us to find common ground. And what's our common ground? That we both love Christ. We both are doing the best we can. We both love children, and we both want to protect children from actual wicked predators.
Yeah.
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 I was listening to an amazing video on Sean Atwood with a gentleman that's been on my show, George Tonks, and he was saying that he literally tells parents, I don't care if your kid is 13, go into the bathroom with them. I have seen them try and, you know, procure a child out of a bathroom. Give them a phone number, you know, give them this, and they don't attack them, they entice them. And I mean, that's just scary.
There are so many ways that predators can get to kids now. I think if everybody knew just how bad it was, they wouldn't hesitate, to agree with our movement. But that's what's so frustrating is I think a lot of people are so in denial and so like quick to judge what they believe is a deep sin without understanding there's just so much worse out there, and everything's so corrupted. We're all messed up, and so we need to just like you said, we're doing our best, and we need to just try to come together on what we can on actual
It's my
predators.
dream. It's my dream that everyone could just lay aside the fight and hold on to whatever little thing that God's given you, and you just follow it like that little hummingbird, you know, going south for the winter, you know, or whatever direction God's putting you. And so the quote is, "You're wrong and you're loved." That's
Right.
the unique Christian voice.
Yeah. Yeah. And I feel like I fully embody that. Like I understand, and I'm still trying to love people through it. Like I wish there wasn't so much, like I said, self-righteous judgment
Yes.
and misplaced anger right
Yes.
now, because
Yes.
more of us need to pick our battles and look at the big picture.
Right. And
You
that
know?
comes from their trauma, though.
Yeah, it
That
does.
comes from
And
their
a lot
trauma,
of people's
and I
a lot of people's
guarantee you
rejection.
they've got a lot of of issues. They have a lot of issues, and I'm not saying they're not real. I'm just saying that they're theirs, not yours.
Yeah, yeah. So that's all I could tell myself when it came to that account I mentioned earlier, kind of disappointing me by like more or less like disowning us, as a whole movement. I was like, well, that's a shame, but oh well. Dust your feet off, keep moving.
It is a shame. I understand, like, so in one respect, I can kind of reach for where they're coming from, but
Yeah.
I also don't think it matters.
Mhm.
Like it's like I was saying earlier, like uh, massive drinkers against drugs.
Yeah.
You know, like you could have alcoholics against fentanyl.
Yeah.
Do you see what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah, it's 100% like that all the time now. Like everyone's kind of a hypocrite. I'm sure even I'm a hypocrite every now and then. But I also like a lot of people who think they know everything about me and they don't. That's the other thing is like you don't necessarily know everything. I mean, there are some opinions even I won't share on the internet because I know that there are people watching me that are waiting for me to like slip up or whatever.
Yeah.
And there's just a certain way you have to handle things. But I always try to encourage kindness on the internet. You will never catch me openly bullying anybody. I think there was maybe one time I told someone to go get their booster shot, and someone was like, "Did you just tell them to go die?" And I was like, "Look, I'm telling them to go take a gamble because they don't want to listen to me about this stuff." But you know, that's the only
That's as
time I get
mean
a
as
little
you get.
passionate about. That's about as mean as I get because I try to. One of the things I've struggled with in the past is sometimes I have a temper, and even with people in my life, sometimes I have a temper. So I'm like, okay, that's my problem. That's my issue. Pray on
Yeah.
that. And I'm not going to let that, slip out on the internet because it's not appropriate. So you have to, I wish more people would think before they type or
But it
whatever.
also is another level lower than where you are emotionally.
Yeah,
They
I just don't
when
want to be
somebody's
stuck
that
in that place.
low, they don't have the reach for as many common sense threads
Right.
as, yeah.
When you're in that I don't want to use this term necessarily, but the low vibration of trying to attack people's appearances and what you think they believe, even if you've only watched one of their videos and you don't know the rest of the story. Um, people they take out their trauma on other people,
Yes.
and it just sucks.
On
Like,
behalf of my fellow Christians, I would like to apologize to you for all of the people who have thrown stones at you.
no, it's all right. I mean, like, I've never claimed to be perfect.
Yeah.
I'm not. Like, I'm still a human being. There's still stuff people don't know about me.
Yeah.
There's still opinions I have that I don't feel like discussing online because, it's not necessary.
Yeah.
Or you should be allowed to. I mean, I sort of miss the days where you could like disconnect and go outside, like I am the last generation of kids who didn't have like something strapped to their hand and could and was told to like go play with a box and read a book. It like it's insane how fast things have changed just in my lifetime. And so I would rather strive, to embody love than that hateful energy that's infecting everyone because I was there.
Yeah.
That's the whole part of my journey is I woke up from being a liberal Democrat, which was someone who was very unhappy, who I had considered, I mean, I was sort of in some of this indoctrination, in some of these ideologies.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I was trying to claim myself as non-binary. Like I talk about this stuff because I know, because I was there, because I went through it. And so that's why I think a lot of people don't understand. Like I have these opinions because of what I went through. And
Right.
and I understand how some people will be like, "Oh, well, you're just deflecting. You don't speak for all of us." Fine, sure. But we're all doing our best. And if you
Yes.
don't like what I have to say, you're welcome to move on with your life. But I would prefer it if we could all meet in the same afterlife and fight the same fight, but I can't make you.
Yes. Well, I think there needs to be more people like you who are willing to face the criticism and I guess in some cases threats. Um, I'm horrified that that actually happens, but I 100% believe you, and it happens a lot with the survivors that I talk to. They get threatened. They have lots of infighting. There's so much. There's so many things to fight about, and so I wanted to have a whole common ground thing, and I wanted to also highlight the differences between sins is an illusion and to get your opinion on it. And I think you did a beautiful job, and thank you so much for sharing again. And I would love to have Matt here. As you know, Matt was going to join us today,
I'm
but he
sorry.
wasn't feeling good.
Yeah,
It's
he's been really busy with the Gays Against Groomers stuff. I think he's feeling a little burnt out. So he was like, "I'm so sorry. I just kind of need a day." I was like,
a
"Yeah."
big job.
And then he also needs to like call his family pretty regularly. He's very far away from his family. So he's like, "I honestly like I'm getting a strong urge to call my mom right now. And I'm sorry." I was like, "Okay." All right.
Yeah.
But I'm sure he'll be willing to talk next time. He's such a unique person. He's so special. Like just honestly, Matt's just such a unicorn of a being, and I don't know how to explain it. He's just Matt, and I've never met someone who genuinely really embodied like both male and female so evenly.
Hmm.
He just is who he is.
Yeah.
And it's not because of some ideology or anything like that. And so that's why he's in this group. He's like, I went through what I went through as an adult. I would never wish this on a child. In fact, sometimes maybe in some cases I wouldn't have done it, but it's done. I'm here. We're here. So
Interesting.
I want other kids to know that you need to give it time.
I can't wait to hear his firsthand account of all this because
Yeah.
that's
He's
just fascinating. And like I told you last time, my jaw dropped when he said what his truth was. I was just like, oh my gosh, like I did not see that coming at all. And so I was like, oh, that's a surprise. But it didn't make me love you any less. I was really excited to talk to you before I knew that, and I was still excited to talk to you after I found out. I just thought it was just amazing how much he looks like a male. Period.
he gets by, and that's because he made a terrible woman. Like, if you know him, you know what I mean. Like, he's just silly. He's a very special person, and he's just
Yeah.
very much in between, and that's his own individual personal case.
Yes.
And again, he's inspired me so much to get close to God. He loves God so much, and he's the reason that I was brave enough to embrace Christ and look past like everything that people had made me feel about it, any hesitation that I had to start speaking about it. Like, he's the reason. So
Oh,
when people kind of like look down on us, it's like, that's a shame, because you're really missing out. Like, we we can be friends with just about anybody. Yeah,
right.
I think between the two of us, like, we're cool. We can hang. Like, we're not going to push things on you. So, it's too bad when people are like, "Meh, meh, meh."
I also think that life would be so boring if everyone was the way a religious spirit wanted all of us to behave.
That's the other thing, is like, a perfect world would sort of be a little bit boring, and we never really learn anything, right?
Yeah, that's so true. This lady Phyllis just wrote on the chat, I think God must love us more than we can imagine.
No, I think that's exactly it. Like, he loves us past all of he's so patient. He loves us past all of our imperfections and quirks, if you will.
Yep.
I mean, again, like we said at the beginning, there are so many people in the Bible that God used, and they were not perfect at all. They were very messy. So I need
Yeah.
people to remember that no matter what the mess looks like, it can still be used for God.
Yes. And thank you for your beautiful words and your beautiful conduct and your faith in Christ and what else? Your love and for being adorable and for having viral TikToks. I'm so mad I don't have TikTok because I can't watch you.
Don't be mad. It's for the best.
Yeah.
Sometimes I wish it would just get shut down and stop. Like, I wish it was all gone. I wish Snapchat was
Yeah.
gone. I wish Instagram was gone.
Are you on all of them?
I not Snapchat. I will never get back on Snapchat again. But
Okay.
TikTok, yes. I mean, obviously I made that video the other day. And what's so funny is I did not plan that video at all. I had a couple of things that I thought I might want to talk about at some point. I didn't even write a script. I just sort of like did it. And those are always the ones that go crazy. But I've had a few videos taken down recently that have made absolutely no sense. I don't agree with why they took them down or the reasons they gave me. So they're attacking me a lot right now, but at the same time, it's a CCP spy app. It's based in China. It's harvesting all of our data. It's pushing a lot of crazy radical ideas. It's giving kids access to stuff they don't need access to. But that's like every other thing in this world at this point.
Absolutely.
So I consider it like a battleground of some sort, like they obviously need my voice there because of all this stuff going down. So that's why I'm still on these platforms, even though sometimes I don't even feel like I'm getting seen very well. I know Instagram, my analytics are terrible. Like, most of the time I can tell I'm very suppressed because there's
Right.
no way the algorithm is only showing me to like 200 people a day when I'm at 14.6 thousand or whatever. Like, it doesn't make sense. That's not how the app should work, right? Like, if I don't know. Anyway, it is what it is, and we just need to make people aware of it. Like, for instance, we found this awful inappropriate hack on Spotify. If you search the words music videos, there's all this like audio porn, and it's just like,
I didn't
ooh.
even know there was such a thing as audio porn. You're teaching me. What?
Yeah. So like it's
Or
anything.
like they like stories or something?
No, it's literally like people recording porn that you can like listen to. And you can find it on Spotify by putting in words that have nothing to do with it. So think about that and how they have a 13 age minimum to sign up for Spotify. And you've got this inappropriate, and I swear, like, nothing is safe. Watch what your kids are using, watching, listening to, consuming, whatever, because guarantee it can be exploited. For,
Right.
like YouTube is, really bad for it. Like a child can watch a string of videos that just get increasingly worse, and the parent won't notice. And the kids start having nightmares, and they realize it's because they're being shown these really scary images and videos and stuff that are like what they think they know, like a cartoon turned scary or turned pornographic. So like I
Wow.
really, really suggest people keep an eye on what their kids are watching, doing, who they're talking to. These apps can
Right.
be very toxic. It can be something as innocent as Spotify. So friendly reminder.
Yeah, it's like those dolls that they found out had those buttons.
Yeah.
That was so creepy. That was so creepy. And you know, a lot of people approve that.
Yeah.
It's just like the Balenciaga thing. I mean, how many people had to approve of it? I mean, who knows?
So
But
many. It's ridiculous. That's a whole can of worms in
so have
itself.
you had a lot of TikTok videos go viral too?
Well, it depends on what you mean by viral, because I've had a few go over a few million.
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
and
Yeah, that
then
would be more though, more than I thought actually.
the last few that I've had taken down were starting, let's see, one was going over like 200,000, and then they took it off, and all I was doing was recommending people watch a documentary called Died Suddenly.
Yeah.
Which is a whole controversy in itself. Some people don't like the source that it's coming from. I
Right.
understand that,
Right.
but that doesn't mean it's fake information necessarily. However, I don't really, again, I don't understand these apps and why they're taking some of my videos down. One of them, I was criticizing pedophiles basically, and they took the video down. And I was like, they took it down for hateful behavior. I was like, against who? Pedophile?
And
How?
were you using strong language?
It was a sound. It was a sound that was already like pre-installed in TikTok, and it was basically like, what the F, three
Oh,
times. And I was showing a headline, and I was like, what? What? And that was removed.
yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like a 10-second video with a popular audio that says WTF, because I didn't know what else to say, frankly. I didn't want to make a whole video on the art that these people are selling. It's disgusting.
Yeah.
But now that's everywhere. It's interesting because I
Oh,
started
hold
talking
on
about
one
this.
second. My cat just did something it shouldn't do.
Oh no. I hate.
The
Oh no.
good news is he's safe. The bad news is my sculpture is on the floor. We'll see later what happened to it.
Oh, I'm
He
sorry.
tried to jump on a shelf that I didn't even think he could get to.
Cats. Anyway, I had pointed out that it's like the parent company of Balenciaga, who it's this man, I
Yes,
can't
the
pronounce his
Penalt.
name. Yeah, so he's married to Selma Hayek, and they
Yes, he
have
is.
these auctions of this really sick art, and now it's everywhere,
They're
unfortunately.
horrific.
I didn't want to show people, but now that the story's been grabbed, it's all over, the images are all over, and I'm just like, man, but
Yeah.
they took my video down.
Well, that's because you didn't put you didn't put the picture out. No, I'm kidding. I did the same thing. I
Oh,
shared it, but I didn't, sometimes I'll screen grab it and then just put it there so people could see because it's easier. Because I know some people don't have time to read and everything, but I was so grossed out by those.
it's
And I just couldn't
bad.
believe the prices for those things too.
It's so, oh my God, it's horrific. And it just goes to show, like, it's really starting to prove some of these quote unquote conspiracy theories that deep in this underground, elite world, this is what they do. These are their tastes. This is what they
Yeah.
consider art or entertainment or pleasure. It's disgusting.
And
I
it's
don't know how you don't
consistent
see it
across
by
the
now.
board. It's
So
consistent. It's the same route every
yeah,
time.
yeah, it's awful. So all we can do is just keep trying, keep showing people. and just trying to make them understand, like, we are not being run by good people.
Yes.
We are a lost society, and one of the reasons is, like, we've lost sight of God, and so many people in this elite society believe in a whole different God. They have different beliefs. They think child sacrifice is somehow necessary, and it's a whole thing. So I just I just want people to try to love each other more.
Yes, me too. And I adore you and can't wait for you to come back. And I think it's important our two generations talk. And I'm looking forward to meeting Matt. I will continue to follow you on Twitter. Tell everybody where they can find you, and what else, where else your stuff is online.
Yeah, sure. Usually my screen name is Hey Judith Rose. I joined an alternative platform called Your Spot, just in case like all other platforms fail me and I have nowhere else to go. That's Hey Jude Rose. Your Spot almost looks like Facebook before it got like really out of hand. It's got that sort of feel to it. There's like, you've got a wall, you've got like posts you can make. I'm on LinkedIn. I have a copywriter portfolio. If anybody, needs a content writer, I am writing for Gays Against Groomers, full discretion. Um, and one of my other usernames, well, Twitter is Judith Rose 91. And I want to say those are I'm active on Twitter, my Instagram stories. I try to keep pretty active. The TikToks, I have phases where I'll make like, bam, bam, bam video, and then I'll stop for like a week or two or whatever.
Right.
But I'm still there. I'll still like comment on stuff. And then those are like the main
Don't you have a
ones.
Substack or something too?
Oh, I have a Patreon. I have
A
my own
Patreon.
podcast that I do. I have I'm planning an episode now. I needed my own guest, so I've been trying to find a guest, but I found one of my ex-liberal friends. We're gonna have a little chat.
Ooh,
But I'd love to get you on. It's just audio only. That's all.
cool. I would
It's
love
like
to
a
do it.
radio show, where like it would I just prefer that because like I can't always be bothered to do the video thing, to do the editing and
It's a lot of work.
the
That's why I do
face and
live.
everything. Yeah, it is kind of a lot of work. So if to get it out faster, I'll just do audio only. But there's just so much to talk about. Sometimes like I get so overwhelmed that I can't even like to manage that. I'll go like a week being like, I really need to make some content, but my brain is scrambled, but people understand that it's a lot, and I'm always looking at stuff, trying to get people aware of things. And sometimes I get burnt out, and
Yeah.
a little up and down. It's been a journey for me. So I'm really grateful for the people who have, hung with me, and especially since the beginning. It's crazy. Some people have like really been here for me. So I appreciate those people. But yeah, thank you for having me, and
Of course.
for the shout out and all that. We'll see about getting Matt on here.
Okay, sounds good. And either way, I would love to have you back because, like I said, I just think it's valuable, and we can just pick a different subject every time and try to relate it to the Bible if we can. And somebody came in here and said some crazy stuff about what children are you claiming to save or whatever, and I just relax, people, and remember, I'm going to say the quote one more time because I think it is so beautiful and it sums it all up. You were wrong. So, of course, you're wrong, you're sinning, but you are loved. That's the unique Christian voice. And so, if you were to say sinners against grooming, would that be acceptable?
I mean, I don't know. The thing is, not everyone in Gays Against Groomers has that same belief, because that we're all from different walks of life, and this is what we're coming together on. We're trying to make it a nonpartisan group, but thanks to the fact that no liberal media will touch us, we've been
Right.
working with conservatives. So it is what it is again. But yeah, we don't necessarily agree on everything. So I mean, I'm just gonna go and, like I said, love people through it. Jesus needed to be around people who needed him. So.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, dear, and thank you everyone for being in here, even the people that criticize. Oops, I just hit the wrong button. Thank you everyone for being here, and I hope everyone has a fantastic weekend. Try to bring that childlike love into the world. And I'm going to say it one more time. You're wrong and you're loved. That's the unique Christian voice. I'll see you all soon.